And hello everyone, this is Yugioh. Welcome back to the channel. So today I have another deck profile for you guys. This is Labrynth. So I've been taking Labrynth to my locals for the past month or so, and I've been doing pretty well. Admittedly, I get to win the locals with it, but over the course of the time I've been playing it, I've taken sets off of Rescue Ace, off of Tearlament, two of the best decks with OCG right now. I almost beat a Dragonlink player, but I threw game 3, and I've beaten Branded and some hero, the one hero player on my locals. So the deck it's been a lot of fun. And so I have to show you a little bit about what Labrynth looks like in the OCG. Don't think of this as like the optimal Labrynth deck. Again, I get to win the locals with it, let alone a major tournament, if I could go to those. But think of it more like a proof of concept, right? What Labrynth could look like post-Age of Overlord. So we're going to go over the main, the actual side, and then at the end of the video, we'll go over a few other tech cards that you might consider playing and ones that I might not consider playing. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into it. Starting off with I think it's a 43 card main deck. So going off the pretty standard stuff. One lovely Labrynth, two lady Labrynth. I'm gonna get those mixed up a lot of times, so bear with me. I know some lists play 3. You don't need 3. And 3 Ariana. You could probably cut this down to 2. It might be okay. I have seen some lists that play 2 Ariana and then 2 this other card, which we'll get to in a little bit. Then we are playing 3 each of the furniture cards. So 3 Shadraglear, 3 Stovey Torby, and 3 Ku-Klok. I have considered cutting Ku-Klok down to 2, but there are some cards in the extra that we do play because we are playing multiple copies of Ku-Klok. It's a level 1, which matters a lot. And then the other card that I alluded to is Ariane, the Labrynth Servant. So this is the counterpart to Ariana. So you can send a normal trap card from your hand or side of the field to the graveyard, and then summon a level 4 lower fiend from your deck in defense position. And then if a monster leaves the field by your normal trap effect, you can draw a card and then either set a trap from your hand or summon a fiend from your hand. The main advantage that Ariane has over Ariana, aside from its higher attack stat, it's 18 as opposed to Ariana's 16, is that both of these effects are once per turn. Ariana is you can only use one effect per turn and only once that turn. You either search a Labrynth card or you draw. You can't do both in the same turn. Ariane, you can do both. So that can matter. And there are some traps that you just want to put in your graveyard, right? Ariane can get out Ariana, and then later if you trigger like resolve a big welcome to bounce a card, you can just draw 2 cards, which is pretty good. A lot of OCG decks, if they are playing Ariane, will play Baguska, which is a great idea, except I don't know where my Baguska is, so that's why I'm not playing it. And then going into the hand traps, OCGs, we are on 3 Maxi, 3 Ash Blossom, and 1 Nibiru. I'm considering I probably will bump the Nibiru up to 3 copies. So Road of the King had a really good article on this, but one of the things that you can do with Labrynth is if you have Nibiru plus furniture card in hand, and your opponent has their 5th summon, right? You go Nibiru, right? And then you chain your furniture card and you pitch the Nibiru. So when the chain resolves, Nibiru resolves as much as possible, setting tribute as many monsters as on the field. But because you can't summon Nibiru, your opponent doesn't get a token, so it's an empty board. And then you resolve the the furniture resolves first. You set your Labrynth spell the trap, and then Nibiru wipes the board, which is really good. So this is why I probably want to bump it up to 2 or 3 copies. Tearlament and Rescue Ace are both decks in the OCG that summon a lot, and they're really, really good. Rescue Ace is kind of the point where like the board is kind of unbreakable. You can't really deal with it, like with center board breakers since like evenly matched, so you need to like interrupt them early. So that's what the Nibiru is for. So that does it for the monsters. Going on into the spells and traps. Spells are very, very straightforward. 3 Pot of Extravagance and 1 Labrynth. I am considering cutting this card. It feels really awful when you draw it. However, it is just another Labrynth card that you can set off of a furniture. So keeping it in your deck can be really important because that means that you're able to trigger your Stovey Torby and Shadraglear at least a few more times to set a Labrynth for your deck. Because like if you have a big Welcome or Welcome Labrynth in rotation, doesn't feel that good, honestly, to have like 2 set, right? Because they're only once per turns, right? So having this card just as an extra, like non-Welcome Labrynth card that you can set can be useful. I get to use its effects, but mainly just for the name. But in theory, there are some pretty funny applications that you can do with this card. So that does for the spells. Going out into the traps, we are on 3 Big Welcome. This card is cracked. And only 1 Welcome Labrynth, so the reason why we're only on 1 Welcome Labrynth is a few reasons. Number 1, the Fiend Lock. You're locking 2 Fiends from the deck or extra deck, and that doesn't matter that much, all things considered, but the fact that you're locking 2 Fiends from the extra deck does kind of hurt. Sometimes you really want to go into your extra deck as a Labrynth player. You don't always, like I've won games where I've like very rarely ever went into it. But there's a card in there that you might want to summon a lot, and if you activate Welcome Labyrinth, you can't summon it. The other reason is like this is recurable, and you only activate one Welcome Labyrinth per turn because it's a hard once, right? So like if you have 2 Welcome Labyrinth set, that kind of sucks. So at least like if you have a big Welcome set, right? Like even if one like goes to the grave, you can still use it later because Big Welcome is just so much more powerful than Welcome Labyrinth. Welcome Labyrinth in and of itself is not any kind of spot removal. It's a spot removal with the field spell, right? Field spell has an effect that says if you activate a Welcome Labyrinth trap card, it also gains an effect that lets you pop a card in the field, which is good, right? Big Welcome by itself is some kind of removal, which will trigger all your Labyrinth monster effects. Welcome Labyrinth by itself does not have that. We are also on 3 Transaction Rollback. So Transaction Rollback is a card from Animation Chronicle 2023, and this card is crazy. Has 2 effects, and you can only use one per turn, only once that turn. The first effect is pay half your life points, then target a trap card in your opponent's graveyard, normal trap card in your opponent's graveyard, and then this card's effect becomes that card's effect when it's activated. The second effect is you can pay half your life points and banish it from your graveyard, then target a normal trap in your graveyard, and then then apply that target's effect. Now, some players know this is, well, you can use this copy of Floodgate, right? I know some players like, oh, you can go Beatrice, send like a D barrier, then send transaction rollback, copy the D barrier, right? Oh my god, it's so good. And that's certainly a thing you can do. I'm not saying it isn't. The thing about transaction rollback, the reason why we play it, is you copy the Welcome Labyrinths, right? If your Big Welcome or your Welcome Labyrinth gets hit with a hand trap, right, you can just do this again and apply the Big Welcome again twice, right? Which is really strong. Or, if you have like a Welcome Labyrinth engraved, right, you've already used the effect, you can do it again, get more field presence. I've very rarely, if at all, ever used this to copy a Floodgate. Like, it's mainly in here to copy the Labyrinth trap cards. That does it for the regular, like the core cards, and then just for like other text, not text, unless you're gonna call it impermanence a tech. 1 Ice Dragon's person. Rescue Ace is Warriors and Machines, so there is some overlap there, right? You can go this target like your Hydrant, target a Hydrant, like banish a Hydrant plus like I don't know a Turbulence, somehow. This is also in here for Drag because one of the guys in my local plays Dragon Link, right? Dragon Link, they're all dragons, right? So banish like a Jerusalem out of the grave. That's pretty useful. Chillman 2, you can also theoretically do it, right? They got like a Shiren on board. You can go activate this, target a Kingless Swamp, right? You banish the Shiren, which is that 1, and the Kingless Swamp. That's pretty strong. Ice Dragon's Prison hasn't really come up. I haven't really had a chance to see it, but I feel like it's really strong when it has come up. And I do like using it. Did that? It's either this or like Tears of the Overroot. Tears is good, but I like Ice Dragon's Prison more. 1 D barrier. I mean, why not, right? And then the last 4 cards, these are Floodgates. We are on 1 Skill Drain. I'm considering cutting it. I've never seen it. And Power Sink Stone. So Power Sink Stone is a card at a Starstrike Blast, of course. And it says, each time a monster effect is activated, place 1 Spellstone counter on this card after it resolves. Maximum 2, right? While this card has 2 Spellstone counters, monsters on the field cannot activate their effects, and their effects are negated. And then during the end phase, you remove all Spellstone counters from this card. This is really easy to set up, because all the furniture cards are quick effects. Coup Clock plus Chandragolier, that's 2 effects. You go activate Coup Clock, flip a Welcome flip a Trap card Chain Lady Labyrinth, right? That's another 2 effects, right? And you get to get all that stuff set up. You can get your board set up with trap cards, and then you can skill drain your opponent. And it's a skill that doesn't last, right? During your turn, right, you're gonna have no counters, so you can maybe use a Lady effect to set a trap, and then maybe like get an Ariana search. That's really all you need. The theory is that this is going to hurt your opponent a lot more than it hurts you. I have seen people play through this, though. Chillement can definitely play through this card. It's not impossible, but when I flipped it on them, it cost them the battle phase, which was really strong. I think I ended up winning that game, but I also opened the nuts. I would consider maybe cutting this card down to 2 copies and certainly cutting the skill drain. I've never seen it. But yeah, that does it for the main deck. Going on into the extra. So we are playing Pot of Extravagance. We are playing extra copies of Chaos Angel. Yay! Yeah, Chaos Angel's crazy. One of the things that I always forget about this card is that the effect on summon to banish a card, first of all, that triggers on special summon, right? So you don't have to synchro it, and that's not once per turn. So one of the funny things about Labrynth. Here we go. About Labrynth is that the second effect, right, if you activate a non-Labrynth normal trap card, you can summon a Fiend from your hand or graveyard, right? Not a Labrynth card, it's a Fiend, right? So you can summon this thing back, right? And trigger the effect and banish a card, which is really strong. You don't have the protection on it, sure, but the Smart Move Banish is really important. This is also the strongest monster that Labrynth is playing. You cannot deal with monsters with over 3,000 attack. It's extremely hard unless you have this thing. One of the reasons why the hero matchup at my locus is so hard is because my opponent often plays Shiny Neo's Wingman, which is 31, right? Which is just barely higher than Lady Labrynth, right? I can't kill it. This is why we are playing Chaos Angel. And then those are the only synchros we're playing. I probably should have a third Chaos Angel, I just don't know where it is. One Wakening Caesar and one Machine X. This is because we are playing Ariane, right? Ariane plus Ariana gives you 2 level 4s, and I don't have Baguska, so this is the best I could do. I've never summoned these things. Like, they're just extra deck filler. I don't know what Machine X does. Basically, if a monster your opponent controls activates its effect, you can attach 2 materials from this card, and if you do, equip that monster or attach that monster as an Xyz material. Keep in mind, it detaches for effect, not cost. So, but again, I have never summoned this thing, so don't worry about it. Number 1 Infection Buzz King. This is a card from Animation Chronicle 2023. This requires 2 more level 8s. If it's Xyz summoned, look at your opponent's extra deck, rip a card out of it. Once returned, detach material from this card, target a card your opponent controls, destroy it if it was a monster, and burn them for half its original attack. And then the third effect is during your standby phase, you can attach 1 card from your opponent's graveyard to this card as material. This thing's crazy. If you can get it to stick. And as much as I like this card, I will say there are often times where I feel like I don't want to make it, right? Because like Lovely Labrynth is so strong by itself, you just want to keep it on the board. And you often have like a Lovely Labrynth plus a Lady Labrynth, and like you really want to commit both those into an Infection Buzz King when Lady Labrynth has the same stats and arguably better effect. I like this card a lot in theory, right? Against certain extra decks. Certain decks is just like a really good card, snipe the one of. But again, I've not really made it. The one that I have made though is Typhon. So this is the counterpart to Zeus. This is like Divine something Typhon Calamity Star or something like that. Requires 2 level 12s, but don't worry about that. During the turn or the turn after, your opponent has summoned 2 or more monsters from their extra deck. You can Xyz summon this card using the monsters you control the highest attack as material. If you do that, you cannot normal or special summon for the rest of the turn. It has 2 effects. First effect is while this card is on the field, monsters with 3,000 or more attack cannot activate their effects. And the second effect is once per turn, you can attach material from this card. Return 1 monster on the field back to the hand. So, Typhon is good in ways you might not expect, right? You can use, in theory, you can use like the shutdown a board, right? Opponent's got like a Bestial Dissipator, Hot Regenerator to Abyss, you make this thing, right? You can like bounce the Abyss for free. But like at that point, like you're kind of losing. Typhon's good, it's just not that big, right? It's big, but you know, it's not that large. 2,900 attack, right? That's the same as Lovely Labrynth. Now that does work out in some ways because Lovely Labrynth's effect can still activate under Typhon. But generally speaking, if you're making this thing into a large board, you're probably gonna lose unless like your back row is crazy. The main thing that I have found is like if your opponent, you know, commits heavily into the board and you nib them, right? You can get like normal Ariana, search a Labrynth thing, make this, and then dome them for like almost 3k damage, which is a lot. So it's there just to get some extra power, but again, into boards, I would say Typhon is not very good. Zeus is much better, and I have actually made Zeus on top of a Typhon that has stuck around for a turn. So, yeah, Zeus is crazy. I don't need to explain just how insane this card is. And then into the Link monsters. 1, Relinquished Anima. We are playing Ku Clock, so might as well. This could be a Link Karibo. The main reason why we are playing Anima is because if the opponent is stupid and plays into the Anima columns, you make this, you steal a monster, and then you can link it off for probably the best card in the extra deck. Well, in theory. SP Little Knight. So Little Knight says, if this card is link summoned using a fusion, synchro, or link monster as material, you can target 1 card your opponent controls or in their graveyard and banish it. And the other effect is when your opponent activates card or effect, quick effect, you can target the 2 monsters on the field, and including card monsters you control, and banish them until the end of the turn. Little Knight is insane. Little Knight is crazy good. The second effect lets you play around your targeting disruption, right? They try to imperm your Lovely Labrynth, you go try Middle Knight, banish it, banish the Lovely Labrynth, you just get the effect to go off. But it is a warrior. So part of the reason why we are only playing one Welcome Labrynth is because if we have too many Welcome Labrynths going off, right, we lock ourselves out of making Little Knight. And Little Knight is such a good card. I mean, not like a game-determinative card, but it's so powerful by itself that you just want to kind of keep access to it whatever you can. So that's why we are only playing the one Welcome Labrynth. I have not really made this card very often, if at all. My opponents tend to make a lot more than me because, like, Labrynth's not really good at generating that much field presence, but if you can, you know, it's still really good. To support Little Knight, we are playing one Masquerade, never summoned it. One Muckraker. Muckraker brings back Fiends, so, you know, can bring back a Chaos Angel. And again, a Chaos Angel's not once per turn. One Dark, one Unicorn, and one Underworld Goddess. Underworld Goddess is a hindrance just because we have the space. I don't think it matters that much. It kind of does. I have used it to win games, right? Out like a Neo's Wingman, make this thing. Out of like just giant monster that your opponent can't deal with is pretty good. It does require a lot of investment though. But yeah, so that does it for the main and extra. Going on into the side. So this is the side that I took to my most recent locals. So one Kelda, one Mudora. I think you've seen this in the TCG, right? If you're discarding cards with the furniture, these are probably two of the best ones because, you know, they're Shizu cards. They're crazy. I am playing the other two Nibirs. I'll probably move these into the main deck very soon. One Magnum and one Drew Swarm. So this is mainly for the guy playing Dragon Link. Now, one of the benefits of the Bestial is that the Bestials are unaffected by Welcome Labrynth, because Welcome Labrynth's effect locks you to summoning Fiends from the deck or extra deck, but these one from hand. And Bestials are overall just very strong. I would be playing more, like maybe 3 Drew Swarms and a Magnum, but you know, these are both limited, so I can't do that. I've never sided them in though, so... Actually, I sided them in like once, and I don't know how good they were. I generally tend to side in Keldos and Mudoras because against Tilmet, they're much stronger, and I've run into Tilmet a lot more than into Dragon Link. One Lava Golem. This was an idea like, oh, I could maybe like break a Rescue Ace board with this, but you know, it's not really that great. If the idea is, you know, if I Lava Golem their board, right, I can just like set my entire hand, and then I'll be safe on the next turn. It didn't really work out like that. Unfortunately. One Forbidden Droplet. This was an idea. It's not a good one. The idea behind this is, well, I used to be playing Dark Ruler No More in this deck. And the problem with playing Dark Ruler No More, Dark Ruler's a good card, don't get me wrong. The problem with it, though, is it's a really bad card if you draw it alongside Pot of Extravagance, right? Because if you have Pot of Extravagance can only be used during the start of your main phase 1, right? So playing into a board going second, you either Dark Ruler them and then don't get your Extrav draws, or you Extravagance and then risk it getting negated. Droplet, the idea behind Droplet was, well, this is the Dark Ruler I can play in my draw phase, right? I could just pitch cards out of my hand, negate my board, and then I can negate their board, and then I can get a Extrav to resolve properly. The problem is, the main issue with this card is that, like, it's a pretty hefty commitment, and the Dragon Link player does play a point at the Red Lotus. So, like, even if I chain Droplet, pitch my entire hand, like, well, okay, well, and, you know, that's still not very good. So I will probably cut this card. I'm not exactly sure what I'll replace it with. Maybe like a Sphere Mode. I'm not sure. But that was the idea. One Duster for back row. And then for the traps, one Different Dimension Ground. This is a blowout card. Blowout card against Tournament, blowout card against Dragon Link. Something against Rescue Ace, right? Not that much because I think its Preventer can still banish Rescue Ace spells and shots out of the graveyard. But you know, if I've set this card against my opponent and they've scooped, so yeah, this card's amazing. 2 evenly matched. I mean, I say more. Evenly's not as good at going into certain boards, right? Rescue Ace will make things like Herald of the Arclight plus Dawn Dragster, and then have the 4 Rescue Ace cards set. So like, Evenly doesn't really do anything to them. But you know, against certain decks, you know, Evenly's crazy. And then the last one is 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. OCG is a format where Red Reboot's legal. So you have to be playing some kind of answer to Red Reboot, or else you lose the game. Having hand traps, and certainly having the graveyard effect, the big Welcome Labrynth, is really useful because it lets you play even while you're under a Red Reboot. But it's better to just prevent that Red Reboot from resolving in the first place. So having this Judgment it's essential. Whenever I side in game 2 and 3, this is mandatory side. I'm always siding in 3 copies of Judgment, just in case, because I know that my opponent is siding in Red Reboot. Right, so in case I draw it, right, at least I have an option. So that does it for the main extra inside. The last thing I want to do for this video is I want to talk a little bit about certain other cards that you might consider playing in in Labrynth, and maybe why or why not you should. So, first thing, I have considered playing deck dev, but deck dev's not that good. There are a few things. So first, Tackle Crusader. So Tackle Crusader is a card that Labrynth players were experimenting with at the beginning of the format. If you play Animate Spirit, you know what this card does. If it's sent to the graveyard, you can select one or two effects. You either flip a monster face down, or you can bounce a spell or trap card your opponent controls back to the hand. And if you do, your opponent can now activate cards or effects with that same name for the rest of the turn. Except that effect is really bad, because now that I read it, it only targets face up, it doesn't target set cards. The main thing that this is important for is booking your opponent's monsters, right? So playing into boards, right, you go activate Chandragalier, you pitch this, plus Tackle Crusader, you get this at your trap, and then Tackle Crusader will book one of your monsters, so that forces a response. In theory, that's really good, but again, I gotta keep bringing it Rescues, because that's like the deck that I'm most afraid of. Rescues will end with Herald of the Arclight, so like Tackle Crusader doesn't really do anything. Right, I guess you like punch over the Arclight, but that's where all the back row comes in. They can just protect it. This was, I think, mainly used against something like Pearly, like X-Pearly Noir. You know, if you see that your opponent's going to make a play for the Noir, you can go activate Chandragalier, pitch Tackle Crusader, and then flip your opponent's Pearly Exceeds face down so they can't rank it up. So this is an option. I did used to side it, but I cut it for space. The other variant is the Unchained variant. I know TCG is being experimented with this right now. One of the benefits of the Unchained variant is with Unchained Soul of Rage. Here, it can link summon Dark Link monsters, so Rage plus any opponent's monster makes Little Knight, which can banish an opponent's card. That's really good. And also, Unchained Soul King of Yama can bring back any fiend. So like, Escape of the Unchained offer is one kind of removal that will trigger your Labrynth monster effects. If you do this, you pop an opponent's card, you pop maybe like Abomination, because if you do play the Unchained variant, you do play Abomination and Anguish. Right, you then go Yama effect, bring back your Abomination, or bring back like a Rage, or even any other fiend, right? Bring back a Lovely Lady, Lovely Labrynth, excuse me. That's really good. The reason why I cut them though is because Shavara and Escape are bricks. You're already playing 2 bricks in the form of Labrynth, and Lovely Labrynth. It's like you don't want to draw them anyway, and these are just 2 other cards you just don't want to see, right? So it's better to just reduce the number of bricks in your deck, I thought. I used to be playing the Unchained variant, but it didn't work out very well. When I switched over to this variant without the Unchained, I did a lot better. And then the last card that I want to talk about is this one. This is Arias the Labrynth Butler. So this is a card out of Age of Overlord, and the main reason why I wanted to put Labrynth together again. I know TCG is like really scared of this card. Now, this effect says during either player's main phase, you can summon this card from your hand or cycle it to the graveyard. Either summon a Labrynth from your hand or set one normal trap from your hand. If you set a normal trap card, it can be activated this turn. The second effect is if it's in your graveyard and your opponent activates a card or effect in response to one of your Labrynth card effects, you can summon this card back. Now this card is useful in the Unchained variant because it is a fiend. Your opponent tries to disrupt your normal Labrynth plays, you bring Arias back, that's a fiend, you can link into Yama. I will say though, if you are not playing Unchained, this card is not that good. I know in the TCG, people are like, wait a minute, you can go, turn 0 D-Barrier. Like, yeah, that's really good. Or like, turn 0 Eradicator. We'll talk about Eradicator in a second. Like, yeah, like you can do all this stuff with stuff in turn 0. That's so good. Yeah, you can. But like, if you looked at the deck, I'm only playing 1 D-Barrier. I'm not going to play 3. Arias is only good if you open it plus plus your blowout floodgate, which is good if you can get it, but like by itself, Arias doesn't do anything. Right? It's good in conjunction with certain normal trap cards, but most of the deck is like the Welcome Labrynth you want, and you can settle that in your deck with the furniture. By itself, in addition, it's not that good, right? If you draw it with no cards to set, like you just pitch this, like set an Escape of the Unchained, that does nothing for you, right? You can't bring it back because you don't have any Labrynth cards. Escape of the Unchained is not going to do anything for you. Or even a D-Rare is not going to do much for you. Like, I've had hands where I open this, puts a transaction rollback, doesn't do anything. Yeah, you can summon Lovely out of your hand, which is good, sure, but you don't want to draw Lovely anyway. You can normal summon Ariana, you can normal summon Ariane, you can special summon Lady Labrynth by itself, right? And you're not going to use it to summon any furniture cards. So, again, by itself, in conjunction with other cards, this card is crazy, right? But as a standalone card, if you don't open any other Labrynths, if you don't open any other like useful blowout cards, this card is terrible. So we're not playing it. And then the last thing I want to touch on, I know I said R's the last thing, I lied, is Eradicator. Okay, now hear me out. In the OCG, Eradicator Epidemic Virus, I don't think is that good of a card. Here's why. So, the main thing about Eradicator is you can set it up turn 0. I know that's true, right? You know, you can get like your big welcome and your lady on the board, like a coup clock in hand. You know, in theory, you go activate big welcome, chain lady, set Eradicator, activate coup clock, and then you can sack the lady off Eradicator. That's good. That's really strong. There's a few problems with that. Number one, everyone and their mother's playing Max C, right? Max C is a freely chainable quick effect. So, you know, they can chain it to your big welcome, which they might want to do anyway, or your welcome Labrynth, and then you can't chain lady Labrynth. So you can't set the Eradicator out of the deck. You had a hard draw, which is, you know, it's just not that good, right? You don't really want to like side in 3 of these things. Let's say your opponent doesn't have Max C. Let's say you get the Eradicator set up, right? And let's say you sack it off, right? You're probably gonna call spells. That's not that good. I don't think it's that good. Now, here's why. If you're playing against Rescue Ace, almost every card in that deck is a quick play spell, right? So first of all, if they're not going to chain one of the quick play spells to your trap card before you set Eradicator, that's one thing, right? That also blocks Lady Labrynth. But if they don't, right, they can just channel the quick play spells to Eradicator, right? And you get nothing out. You don't really get anything out of it. Against Tearlament, right? Tearlament's predominantly monster effect focused, right? And like if you punch the Scream out of their hand, if you get rid of the Scream, they search a trap, which is not that great. Now I do think it's better against Tearlament, but Tearlament is it's so monster focused. I guess there are certain situations where, you know, like Thesis Starfrost Thesis Tearlament is a variant that I see in my locals, right? If you, in theory, you can like go Eradicator, pop the Reichphobia out of their hand, and then they can't get the Chaos Ruler. That's a whole line that they can do off of one card. But like, you know, Eradicator is supposed to be a blowout card, and using it and at best you get rid of like 1 or 2 cards, right? And Tearlament doesn't necessarily need that whole combo line. They can do a lot with just monster effects, right? Tearlament's Cashier is a crazy card. Shiren into Kelbeck into Agito, which is also really good, right? They don't need their spells. The best thing that you're going to be doing against this with this is you're going to be using as Labrynth, you're going to call traps, right? If you do that, yeah, you're probably going to win the game. That is certainly a blowout card. But I know most people know Eradicator is like, oh, you can call spells, and you can like rip your opponent's entire hand. Doesn't always work like that. Against, you know, lower tier like rogue strategies, yeah, I'm definitely siding an Eradicator. This is actually supposed to be in my side deck, but I couldn't find it, so that's why I put in the Lava Golem. But like, against a lot of the top decks, it's really not that good. You're more scared of the monster effects. And none of the virus cards are really that good at playing into monsters themselves, right? Because even if you hit the monster out of the hand, they got Graveyard effects, right? You don't want to flip a virus on a Tearlament hand, because then it's going to trigger all their effects. So I don't think Eradicator is that strong of a card in the OCG. I've certainly seen Labrynth decks that don't play it. I'm not saying it's a bad card. I don't think it's ban-worthy like it is in the TCG. So, anyways, that does it for this deck profile. Please, if you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, do whatever you do whenever you like the video on YouTube, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.